Hi, and welcome to my first ever YouTube video on the official Emma's Noggin YouTube channel. Thank you so much for being here. And if you're here from my Instagram and you know my art, then please hit that like, that subscribe, and the bell as well, just to let me know that you're one of the OGs. And if you don't know me, my name is Emma. I'm a Hungarian artist living in Austria, trying to pursue art as a living to ultimately leave my 9-to-5 job. I started with crochet pattern designing and testing, but very quickly my love for all things stationery and whimsical art took over, and I quickly transitioned to sticker making, which will hopefully someday turn into a business in selling prints, stickers, stationery, post-its, notebooks, and maybe more. By the time that you see this, October has already ended, but I am still very much in the October craze that is Inktober. And Inktober was very different this year because I decided to join. Well, not Inktober. I joined Whimsytober by, I'm going to put their ad here. I think it's Esos, Easel, and Aaron A. Art, I think. I don't know, there was something about their prompt list that was more whimsical and magical and autumn focused and not that Halloween spooky season focused, which I have no issues with other than the fact that I don't know how to go about that artistically. So I am ultimately very glad that I chose Whimsytober. I ended up connecting with so many like-minded artists and following their journey throughout this hectic month and seeing their beautiful art. And that was like such an interesting side effect of the whole thing is like I knew that my art is going to transform some way, and maybe my style and the way that I go about a keyword. But I never thought that it would end up with actual connections with artists. Well, I should have thought, but it just didn't really cross my mind when I joined. But as the side effect was a very happy one of connecting with artists and growing as an artist myself, the main effect was me like absolutely losing my mind. so that's what this video is about. Welcome to my journey through Whimsytober, and here are my thoughts on the journey. And yeah, let's get into it. It is officially November. It's actually past the first week of November. I've been very bad in filming and progressing with this video, which is also linked to Whimsytober. So this is a perfect detour into this bit. I naively thought that an October art challenge is literally creating full illustrations every single day, like starting from the like ideation all the way to like fully like making a total page art piece, which is basically what I did in like the most hectic bit of my work as well, like my 9-to-5 work as well. It was fabulous. As I said in my like first impressions, the prompts, the inspiration it gave me, the connections I grew, the follower count that grew, it was all marvelous, and I'm super proud of the pieces I made, and I see the way I grew, but in a lot of ways I burnt out, and I think it was two things. It was, of course, the daily art creation, like after I got home at sometimes it was 4, but sometimes it was 6. I got home, I was tired, and it was just a lot to like sit down and go on Pinterest and start thinking about the prompt, and not even thinking about the prompt, but like trying to get myself into that creative flow. Like, I don't know if any of you feel this way, but when you are in a 9-to-5, it feels a lot like draining creatively. It's really hard to find, especially with the artwork that I do. I try to bring back that inner child, that peace, that oasis that lives in you. And it's therapeutic in a way for me as well. But it is very hard sometimes to get home from a 9-to-5 and instantly go back to that child oasis state of like rude people fucking honking everywhere. It's really hard to get back to that Zen state. And I had to do that every day, which was really good and therapeutic, but also very, very, very hard. So that was one reason why I think the burnout happened by the end of November. And the other one was that I've grown very sensitive to social media, sensitive to all the bad news, sensitive to everything that's happening around the world. And I find it easier if I limit my screen time and just get off social media for a couple days to really live in the life that I am living, in the city that I am living in, and realize that this city also has its ups and its downs, and my life has its ups and its downs. But when I see all of this chaos going around, I internalize it and I kind of feel it as if it was a threat to me when it's not. There does come a time when it's too much, especially when it's like over 5 hours a day of screen time. It gets too much, and you start to live in social media instead of just looking around you and realizing what your life is, what your blessings are, who surrounds you, what surrounds you. And the need to be on social media on a daily, to post, it did burn me out of the social media craze. And that leads me directly to why I am here today and not 7 days ago, is because right after I posted my last art piece, it was like this, I don't have to go on social media for a while. And I turned off everything. Like I woke up in the morning, I checked my messages, and I left my phone on my bedstand, and I didn't even look at it until 10 p.m. And I know I can't keep that up, and I also have to stay motivated creatively, so I am currently trying to figure out this, how to implement this routine that I love. So I love the Whimsytober routine of getting into that flow every day and doing something. But it shouldn't be every day. It should be like a couple days a week or once a week, and it should be like 5 hours per piece, not like 1 hour per piece. So I am trying to figure that out, how to go forwards with this motivation, what to do with this newfound inspiration and newfound motivation and daily routine. So that brings us to here. I also wanted to talk a bit about like the art pieces I made, so I am going to put a section about that. I don't know if that's going to be today, because I'm just taking it day by day. Hi again. So let's get right into the meat of this video and figure out, did I actually improve as an artist? So I have my handy dandy iPad out. I'm really excited to get into it. I haven't looked back at these in a hot minute. If you want to look at some of my pieces that I haven't talked about in this video, or if you want to just look at one of them a bit closer, zoom in on it, maybe even leave a little love that you like it, everything is on my Instagram, and I will not be archiving them, so you can find all of my Whimsytober pieces as they were created for Whimsytober on my Instagram right now. A little backstory on how I started using digital art. I started digital art in June, and I was really nervous on whether or not I can translate my artistic style into digital art, and let me tell you, in the beginning I could not. And then I found this incredible artist called Gummy on Instagram. I will tag her right here. She is one of the most influential people of June Emma. She really kickstarted this kind of direction that I want to take as an artist. I bought her book, I got a lot of her Procreate brushes, almost all of them, and I really got into this kind of crayon-y, pencil-y, hand-drawn, but very crayon-y design. And I was in love with it. A lot of my old pieces, older pieces, we're talking June until November. When I say old, it's June because I'm talking about my digital art. So a couple of my early digital pieces were with that technique, and I love that technique still. But I did find it challenging to figure out how to exactly blend those colors, how to use those brushes. A lot of the times my Apple Pencil wouldn't react to the brushes the way that I wanted it to react. I don't know if it's because my pencil isn't the most modern one, so maybe her brushes are more for the more modern pencils, but do not take my word for that. In any case, I found it a bit difficult to work with the crayon brushes. Don't get me wrong, I still use them to this day, but so the reason why I brought this up is because the very first piece that I did for Whimsytober was Overgrown, which was the 5th day that I joined, and it was the first time that I used Gummy's technique that she writes in her book, and she has a lot of tutorials on her Instagram teaching you a lot about how she places colors, how she creates immersive art and composition. It is fabulous. Go check her out. I am not sponsored by her. I just love her. And I tried her techniques, the techniques that I learned from her, with Procreate's watercolor brushes. I'm not sure if the watercolor brushes are with the new update or not, but in any sense, this was the first time that I tried it and it instantly clicked. And you will see the watercolor translate into all of my pieces. I almost only used watercolor. I used Gummy's crayon brushes to color block to give it that nice textury, like jelly-like, like really homey color blocking that I love. You can't really see it in the finished piece, but it just brings the piece to life for me when I start out with color blocking. And I use some of her texturing brushes still, and the stars that she uses. So I do use it quite a lot still, but everything that I do with depth, with highlights, and with shadows, I do with the watercolor brushes. Something about the fact that you can just layer them on top of each other, like on top of itself, just gives me that beautiful feeling. I don't know. I'm not a watercolor person IRL, and that's why I never use the watercolor brushes, because I don't like using watercolor in real life. I am a pencil girly all the way. I love doing the sketches. I love doing like research and practice with sketches with a pencil. I love drawing with a pen. So I am not really the painting person. I'm more of a pencil and marker person and pen person, which is why I don't really do traditional art, because my traditional art really translates in a loose, sketchy way. So that's why I prefer digital art. I don't know why. Look, we can get into that in a different video. That's not really for here. So that's all to lead up to what I am going to talk about, because this kind of kickstarted my growth as an artist, I think, because it really made me find my style. I think that's a really difficult thing to talk about as an artist. Like, what is your style? What is my style? Do I have a style? Is it bad that I don't have a style? Am I styleless? Do others have a style? How did they find it? It is a very difficult question, and a lot of your imposter syndrome comes from this question of, do I have a style? And why do others have a better style? You have to first realize that everything that's on social media already is on social media for a reason. These pieces were probably made for social media. These pieces were probably, if it's not made for social media, they were picked out of a bunch of pieces that they were working on to represent them on social media. This is not a malicious tactic. This is not manipulating. I'm not saying this is marketing, but every time that I draw, I don't publish everything on social media, and I pick the ones that I like most to post on social media. So you will see a beautiful thesis of my style on social media, whereas maybe at home I have 10 different styles, and which causes me imposter syndrome. A lot of rambling to say that when I started Whimsytober, I did not know what I want to do, and one of my biggest goals was to find my style, something that people can kind of look at and be like, oh my god, that is Emma's noggin. And I think this first piece, Overgrown, kind of kickstarted that with this huge click that happened with the watercolor love, and this is what translates into the rest of the pieces. I see a lot of watercolor in a lot of my pieces, a lot of watercolor and a lot of course, scenery. I am absolutely in love with scenery, with the impression of scenery. A lot of them are inspired by my travels in my hometown. A lot of them are inspired by Hungarian scenery. A lot of them are inspired by my travels to Innsbruck when I went to school, so the mountainside. And a lot of them are inspired by Iceland, which is like the absolute love of my life. And all of that is bedazzled with like this childhood fantasy. I would always play in nature. I would always find the closest weeping willow to play under. It's just a big part of my life, and I am very in love with scenery, and I believe that it is where my talent lies. So I did a lot of scenery images, experimented with using different colors for grass and sky. So basically, instead of this idyllic blue sky with the green grass, I started implementing a bit of turquoise for the grass, a bit of purple for the sky. I started implementing some of the monochrome designs as is my night design. At the very end, it was, I think day 30 was night, one of my favorite pieces that I created. I've always had this kind of stylistic approach where I would love to add some pastel colors, like color block the inside of like huge areas, so that not only the sky but clouds, pinks, oranges, purples, blues, greens into the cloud, kind of mush them together, place them in a nice way, and yeah, and give it like a base palette. That is something that I realized that I really love to do. In scenery, a lot of my work will include some forms in the clouds, animals. I did a fish, I did a pumpkin, I did a cat, I did a castle, and this obsession really began at, what was the point that it began? I think it was cat. Yes, it was cat where that obsession began, and I am absolutely obsessed with it. And there I can definitely see a growth. I can actually show you where I see the growth, because if you look at my first painting that incorporates this cloud formation, cat, you can see that the way that I separate the different layers of cloud is by using a pen marker to kind of give that white highlight for all of the fluffy clouds, which is a choice. And when you look at other works like Patch and Fish is my favorite of, I think it might be my top one. If you look at that, you can see that instead of using a marker to kind of give it those harsh lines to give this perception of depth, I used shadows and highlights finally. I used formations and different kind of brushes. Actually, the piece Fish was made with like 7 different brushes that I use for cloud making, and you can really see it evolve, and I am really excited and proud of how that evolved. The second thing that I really wanted to challenge myself in is shadows and depth, which is something that is very trivial for most, if not all, artists, including myself. Like I am very familiar with shadows and depth and perspective, but still in practice, especially in digital art, I struggle translating depth. And I really began to see that struggle with Shrine. Now, if you look at this piece, you can see what I was going for. It was supposed to be a very monochrome watercolor piece, which it is. It's an alright piece. I don't have any issues with it. It is a sketchy piece. I wouldn't imagine that I spent any more than 45 minutes on it. That's what it looks like, but I can check if anybody's interested in how long it actually took. I really like a couple of choices that I made here. I'm not trying to be too harsh on myself, but I remember that I was very disappointed in the fact that I did not achieve what I wanted to, which is this very dramatic depth perception using monochrome colors. I really wanted to translate something using only one shade of coloring. That was supposed to be the challenge of it, and I did not achieve it. And that's when it kind of began my search for more dramatic forms and more dramatic shadows and more dramatic perspective changes. So I really tried to grow. In all fairness, I don't see a whole lot of growth in that area, but it was just a month. And when I say I really wanted to grow there, I'm not saying that I actually actively was looking to challenge myself in that area. It was just in the back of my mind, like, oh, I didn't really quite do that. Let me try to do it in this one. But it wasn't like, I'm gonna make something just for this purpose. In my opinion, drama is where the art is. It's where the emotion comes from. You have to look at a piece and you have to feel some kind of emotion. And I like a piece that makes me feel a heavy emotion. I like a piece to make me feel very sad or very ecstatic or very nostalgic. And you don't get that. In some cases you do, but in the broader sense, you don't get that with vanilla. You need depth, you need darkness, and you need light, and you need edges, and you need those things to evoke an emotion. I don't know if it's a general thing. Let me know if I'm making any sense here, but I'm looking for emotion. I'm looking for emotion out of myself onto the paper or the iPad. And I feel like I've gotten much close to a personal emotion from myself as I started to go into depth in every sense. And lastly, if I have to choose like 3 things that I wanted to work on on this journey of Whimsytober, I would say it's intention. In real life, on paper, I am a very sketchy person. That sounds really bad, not a sketchy person, but I love to sketch. I love to sketch with a pen, with a pencil. I don't like to go into a lot of the details and pick up a paintbrush and go into like the really big rendering of it all. And that is something that I wanted to change. I wanted to add intention into my art. I wanted there to be a purpose behind every stroke, behind every light changing, around every color decision that I make. I didn't want it to be just off of feeling. I acknowledge that I want to be kinder to myself. So I want to say out loud that I acknowledge the talent that was given to me, but I am scolding myself for the fact that I have not practiced enough in my life, especially in my late teenage years. After I finished this art program that I went to, I never looked really back. Ever since I was like 16 to 22, I would say, 22, 23, when I started the crochet designing stuff, I never really practiced in that time, and I should have. And I am very harsh on myself for that time, because that should have been the time that I spent mastering my craft, and I didn't. So it is now my turn to do it. All of that rambling just to say that one of my biggest goals was to just stop just putting anything down and just think for a minute. These are not paintings that I spent hours upon hours on. These are all still somewhat like just sketch heavy and a lot of impressionist things in it. But you can see, for example, one of the most intentionless pieces that I think I did is Celestial. I love this piece. I love the thought behind it. But looking back at it, the composition, the sizing of the elements in it, the elements that I use, the lines I use, the colors that I use, there's no intention behind it, and it just lacks the depth because of it, and not the shadow and perspective depth, but the emotional depth. It lacks it because you're all scattered around this piece. You're like, where should I look first? Another piece that is like that is Sorcerer, which is I think this is one of my best ideas in the month, and one of my worst executions. Nothing makes sense here. It just doesn't. And then if you look further and you start seeing where I started to actually think, you get pieces like Reflection. You can see things like Patch. You can see pieces like Peak. You can see pieces even like Fable, and Fable was an early one, so that wasn't really a before and after thing, but the composition, you can see there's more thought put behind it. So if I would have to choose 3 things to take with me from this challenge, I think I would say that I want to continue developing my style. I would want to be more like present in my paintings when it comes to depth, shadows, highlights, and drama. And lastly, the intention behind it. There were a couple of very high highs and very low lows in the month. If you want to see what my issues are with the images, if you want to see what I would improve, I am going to do an Instagram Reel series on improving some of these pieces. So basically I will take each of the pieces that I don't feel satisfied with, and I will either repaint them completely, like from scratch, start them over, or more like I will like just go back to it, spend another day or two with it, sit with it, just let it breathe a bit and fix it, and just do a before and after, kind of pointing out what I fixed and why I made that decision. That's gonna go only on Instagram or maybe on YouTube Shorts, but it's definitely not going to be a full YouTube video. I am actively working on keeping myself in the momentum. I am actively working on 2026 planning, working on getting back on the track with product lineup, like actually going back to this seller mindset instead of the artist mindset that I was in for almost 3 months now. I didn't really put out anything to sell, maybe even more time. And just to keep the Whimsytober momentum going, I am going to create a video on how I plan on keeping the ambition and motivation up, and what I'm planning to do in the next couple months to get myself in the right mindset going into 2026. So if you're interested in that, it will also include a lot of my art and what I do with them, and a lot of planning on which products I want to create, what I want to release, when I want to release them. So all that jazz is going to be in the next video. I'm hoping that it's already going to be up by the time that you see this, but it might be not if you're really early. And if you are really early, I am really thankful that you're here, and I hope that you stick around because I promise there's more to come. If you're not really early, I am still super, super thankful that you're here, and please go watch other videos as well because I promise they only get better than this. Thank you for being here. Whenever you joined, if you joined during this video, if you joined years ago, if you joined today, which is really weird to say because this is my first video that I'm filming, so. But I am super, super, super thankful for you, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for being here, and go to my Instagram to watch all of my pieces. Thank you. Bye, bye, bye. So it is the 31st. Happy Halloween. I just finished Whimsytober, my first ever October art challenge. Peep it. And I am super tired. It was such, I'm gonna make a whole video about this, but like genuine, like I just put the pen down reaction to the whole month. It was such a fun process. I had so much fun. It was so unexpected in a lot of ways. And I am scared. Like genuinely, how am I supposed to stay motivated now that I don't have daily prompts that I have to do? I don't know what's gonna happen from tomorrow, and I'm scared. So yeah, I just wanted to give you a glance at like what state I was in after I finished, what my last thoughts were. So yeah, overall, such a super, super, super experience. I can't wait to make more art. It was so fun, and I can't wait to like do a whole like montage of like all of them next to each other and doing the videos of it. I can't wait. Bye.